She was supposed to say, "I do," but the dog said no. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The morning light falls soft and golden across the vineyard, stretching long over rows of white chairs and polished wood arches wrapped in ivory roses. The kind of light photographers pray for. The kind that makes everything feel like it's already a memory, already perfect. Emily Carter stands at the edge of the aisle, her breath slow, her hands steady, fingers brushing the delicate lace of her dress, as if confirming that this moment is real, that after years of waiting, of hoping, of rebuilding a life that once felt broken, she has finally arrived here. The faint scent of gardenias drifts through the air, mixing with fresh-cut grass and a whisper of summer heat rising from the ground, and somewhere beyond the guests, a violin hums low and gentle, pulling the moment forward one heartbeat at a time. At the far end, Daniel Brooks waits beneath the arch, tall, composed, wearing a smile that seems to promise everything she ever wanted: stability, warmth, a future untouched by the shadows of her past. And for a second, Emily allows herself to believe in it fully, to step into that quiet dream without question. Then something shifts. Not in the crowd, not in the music, but in the air itself, like a subtle pressure that no one else notices, and from the corner of her vision, a figure moves, low, deliberate, silent in a way that doesn't belong in a place this bright. Rex. The German shepherd steps forward from between the rows, his coat catching the sunlight in shades of sable and black, his posture alert but not aggressive, his amber eyes locked onto her with a focus that cuts through everything else. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not today. Not after everything. A murmur ripples through the guests, soft, uncertain, but Emily barely hears it because Rex isn't looking at them. He's looking at her. And then, without warning, he moves. Not fast, not wild, but with purpose, stepping directly into the aisle, placing himself between her and the future she's about to walk into. The music falters for half a second before continuing, as if unsure whether to stop or pretend nothing is happening, and a nervous laugh escapes someone in the crowd, quickly swallowed by silence. Emily exhales, a small breath, almost a smile, the kind you give when something unexpected happens but doesn't yet feel serious. "Rex," she whispers under her breath, more to herself than to him, her voice calm, reassuring, the tone she used back when he would hesitate during training, back when trust was simple and clear. But Rex doesn't move. His ears stay forward, his body steady, not blocking out of confusion, not reacting to noise or distraction, but choosing to stand there, as if this single step matters more than anything else. Emily takes one careful step forward, the soft fabric of her dress brushing against the ground, the aisle stretching ahead like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Rex shifts instantly, matching her movement, closing the space again, closer this time, his presence firm but controlled, and there's something in his breathing, slow, measured, that sends a quiet chill through her chest. This isn't disobedience. This isn't fear. It's something else. Around them, the guests begin to stir, whispers threading through the warm air, confusion building in small, uneasy waves, and at the end of the aisle, Daniel's smile tightens just enough to notice, just enough to feel. Emily swallows, her heartbeat no longer steady, her fingers curling slightly against the bouquet in her hand, petals trembling where they shouldn't. "It's okay," she says softly, though she isn't sure who she's trying to convince anymore, and she reaches out, her hand hovering just inches from Rex's head, expecting the familiar response, the gentle lean, the quiet submission that always followed her voice. But Rex doesn't lean in. He doesn't soften. He holds his ground, his gaze unwavering, and in his eyes, there is no confusion, no doubt, only a quiet, unspoken warning that presses into the space between them like a truth waiting to be seen. And for the first time that morning, Emily doesn't feel like she's walking towards something perfect. She feels like she's standing at the edge of something she doesn't understand, something Rex already does. The silence does not break all at once. It spreads slowly, like a ripple through still water, until even the violin seems to hesitate, its notes stretching thinner, uncertain, as if the music itself can feel that something is no longer right. Emily keeps her hand suspended in the air, inches from Rex, waiting for the moment he will soften, for the familiar shift she has known for years, the quiet obedience that always followed her voice. But it never comes. Instead, his chest rises and falls in a steady rhythm, controlled, deliberate, and his eyes remain fixed on her, not wild, not afraid, but certain in a way that makes her pulse stumble. She lowers her hand slightly, her fingers brushing the edge of his fur, warm under the sun, and even then, he does not move aside. Around them, the whispers grow louder, guests leaning toward one another, confusion threading into curiosity, and somewhere behind her, she hears her mother's voice, low but urgent, telling someone to handle the dog, to remove him, to keep things moving before the moment unravels completely. At the end of the aisle, Daniel shifts his weight, the movement subtle but noticeable now, his smile returning, practiced, reassuring, as if he can will the scene back into place by refusing to acknowledge the tension building in the air. Emily, he calls gently, his tone warm, steady, the same voice that has carried her through quiet evenings and long conversations about the future, the same voice that once made everything feel safe. He is just nervous. Someone must have let him in. Come on, we are almost there. The words are simple, reasonable, and for a brief second, she wants to believe them. She wants to laugh this off, to step past Rex, to continue forward, and let this moment become a small, forgettable interruption in an otherwise perfect day. But Rex does not look at Daniel. He does not even glance in his direction. His focus remains entirely on her, as if the world has narrowed down to this single decision she is about to make. Emily exhales slowly, trying to steady the growing unease in her chest, and she takes another step forward, firmer this time, a quiet assertion of control. Rex responds instantly, moving with her again, closer still, until she can feel the warmth of him against the front of her dress, not pushing, not aggressive, but unyielding, like a barrier that refuses to be crossed. A soft gasp escapes someone in the front row, and the officiant lowers his hands, uncertain now, his rehearsed words hanging unfinished in the air. Emily's heartbeat begins to echo louder in her ears, each pulse carrying with it a question she cannot quite form. And as she looks down at Rex, something flickers at the edge of her memory, something old, buried beneath months of planning and happiness, something tied to a time when her life was not filled with flowers and promises, but with reports, long nights, and the quiet, constant awareness that danger does not always announce itself. Rex, she says again, softer now, not as a command, but as a plea, her voice carrying a hint of something she has not felt in a long time. Doubt. His ears twitch slightly at the sound, and for the first time, his gaze shifts, just for a fraction of a second, not away, but downward, toward the bouquet in her hand. Emily follows the movement without thinking, her eyes dropping to the cluster of white roses and soft greenery she has been holding so tightly, and that is when she notices it. Not something obvious, not something that would catch anyone else's attention, but something small, out of place. A faint, metallic scent, subtle but distinct, cutting through the sweetness of the flowers. Her fingers tighten unconsciously around the stems, and the memory hits her not as a clear image, but as a feeling, sharp and immediate, a sensation she has learned never to ignore. It is the same instinct Rex was trained to trust, the same instinct that once kept both of them safe. The whispers around her fade into a distant hum as her focus narrows, her breath slowing, her mind beginning to connect something she does not yet understand, and when she lifts her eyes again, they do not go to Daniel. They return to Rex, because in that moment, she realizes he is not stopping her from moving forward. He is trying to show her why she should not. The scent does not belong here. It lingers faintly beneath the sweetness of roses and fresh air, something colder, sharper, like metal warmed under sunlight, like a memory that refuses to stay buried, and Emily feels it settle into her chest in a way she cannot ignore. Her grip tightens around the bouquet, the stems pressing into her palm, grounding her in a moment that suddenly feels less certain, less safe, and more like something she has stepped into without fully seeing. Rex watches her closely, his posture unchanged, but there is a subtle shift now, a quiet anticipation, as if he has been waiting for this exact moment, for her to notice what he already knows. Around them, the murmurs swell again, voices overlapping in confusion, concern, impatience, but they sound distant, like noise carried from far away, because Emily is no longer standing in the center of a wedding. She is standing inside a question. Daniel's voice reaches her again, softer this time, but with an edge she has never heard before, something just beneath the surface that does not match the calm expression on his face. Emily, it is just a dog. You are letting this ruin everything. Please, just come here. The words are careful, measured, but there is a tension in them now, a quiet urgency that pulls at her attention in a different way. She lifts her eyes slowly toward him, and for the first time, she does not see only the man she thought she knew. She sees the small things. The way his shoulders are held just a little too rigid. The way his smile does not quite reach his eyes. The way his gaze flickers, not toward her, but briefly toward the bouquet in her hands before returning to her face. It is subtle, almost nothing, but it is enough. Her breath catches, not in fear, but in recognition, the kind that does not come from logic, but from instinct, the same instinct she once trusted every day without hesitation. Rex shifts, slightly, his nose lowering toward the bouquet again, not touching it, but close enough that his breath stirs the petals, and Emily follows the motion without thinking, her focus narrowing further, isolating the small, hidden detail that does not belong. There, tucked between the stems, wrapped carefully in the ribbon, is something she had not placed there, something too deliberate to be an accident. A small object, smooth, metallic, no larger than a coin, almost invisible unless you know to look. Her pulse quickens, each beat sharper than the last, and the world around her seems to slow, stretching the moment into something fragile and precise. She remembers training sessions, long hours spent learning to read what cannot be seen, to trust signals that others dismiss, to understand that danger does not always come loudly. Sometimes it hides. Sometimes it waits, and sometimes it is carried into the most beautiful places without anyone noticing. Emily, Daniel says again, stepping forward this time, his voice firmer, the distance between them shrinking by a single measured step. Give me the bouquet. Let me fix it. You are shaking. The request is simple, almost caring, but something in it lands wrong, something that does not align with the warmth she once felt in his presence. Rex reacts immediately, a low, controlled sound rising from his chest, not loud, not aggressive, but unmistakable, a line drawn in sound instead of movement. He steps forward half a pace, placing himself more fully between Emily and Daniel, his body angled not toward her, but toward him now, protective, certain. The shift is small, but it changes everything. Emily's breath slows again, but this time it is deliberate, her thoughts aligning with a clarity she cannot ignore anymore. She looks at Daniel, really looks, and for the first time, she allows herself to question what she sees. The man she trusted, the man she chose, the man waiting at the end of the aisle. And in that silence, with Rex standing steady at her side, she realizes something that settles deep and heavy within her. Rex is not confused. Rex is not reacting to chaos. Rex is remembering. And whatever he remembers is standing right in front of her. The space between them feels smaller now, tighter, as if the air itself has begun to close in around a truth that can no longer stay hidden, and Emily does not move, not forward, not back, her body caught in a stillness that is no longer hesitation, but awareness. The bouquet feels heavier in her hands, no longer just flowers and ribbon, but something layered, something placed, something intentional, and as her fingers shift slightly along the stems, she feels it again, that small, unnatural weight tucked within, precise and deliberate. Rex remains steady at her side, his presence grounding, unwavering, his attention no longer divided, fully fixed on Daniel now, every muscle aligned with a quiet certainty that does not waver under pressure, does not bend to voices or expectations. Around them, the ceremony has unraveled into fragments, the music fading into silence, the officiant stepping back, unsure, guests leaning forward in their seats, drawn not by spectacle, but by the unmistakable sense that something real is unfolding, something no one rehearsed for. Daniel takes another step closer, his shoes pressing softly against the gravel path, the sound sharp in the quiet. And though his expression remains composed, there is a flicker now, something behind his eyes that does not match the calm he is trying to project. "Emily," he says again, slower this time, each word measured, controlled. "You are overthinking this. It is just nerves. Give me the bouquet and let us finish this." His hand lifts slightly, palm open, inviting, patient, but it stops short of reaching her, as if even he is unsure how far he can go without breaking whatever fragile control still holds this moment together. Emily does not respond right away. Instead, she looks down again, not at the flowers as a whole, but at the exact place where the ribbon wraps tightly around the stems, where the texture shifts just enough to conceal what does not belong. Her thumb presses gently against it, feeling the outline beneath, smooth, cold, unmistakably out of place, and something in her chest settles, not with fear, but with clarity. The kind that does not shout. The kind that simply becomes impossible to ignore. She remembers late nights under fluorescent lights, reports spread across metal desks, evidence cataloged with careful precision, the way small objects could carry entire stories if you knew how to read them. She remembers Rex then, younger but just as focused, sitting beside her, watching, learning, responding not to words, but to patterns, to signals buried beneath surfaces. He had never been wrong. Not once. "You did not put this here," she says quietly, her voice not loud, but clear enough to cut through the silence. And when she lifts her eyes, they do not search anymore. They land directly on Daniel. His reaction is immediate, though subtle, a fraction of a second where his composure tightens, where his gaze drops, not to her face, but to the bouquet, confirming without words what she already feels. It is enough. Rex's ears shift forward, his stance firming just slightly, the low, controlled sound returning to his chest, not louder, but deeper, more certain, as if the line he has drawn is no longer just instinct, but proof. "Emily," Daniel says again, but now there is a different tone beneath it, something edged, something less patient. "Do not do this here. You are making a scene." The words hang in the air, but they do not land the same way they would have before. Not now. Not after the shift that has already taken place inside her. Emily exhales slowly, the breath steady, deliberate, and with careful hands, she begins to loosen her grip on the bouquet, not to give it away, but to adjust it, to pull slightly at the ribbon, enough to expose the hidden object just a fraction more. It catches the light for an instant, a small glint, barely noticeable unless you are looking for it, but she is looking now. She is seeing. And so is Rex. The crowd leans in collectively, drawn by the subtle change, the quiet reveal, and for a moment, everything holds, suspended between what was believed and what is beginning to surface. Emily lifts her gaze once more, meeting Daniel's eyes, and this time, there is no softness left, no uncertainty, only the steady weight of someone who has stepped fully into the truth. "Then tell me," she says, her voice calm, unwavering. "Why would something like this be hidden in my hands on the day you said you wanted everything to be perfect?" And in the silence that follows, with Rex standing between them like a living line that cannot be crossed, the illusion finally begins to crack. For a moment, no one breathes. The question hangs in the air, quiet but heavy, like something sacred that has been disturbed, and Daniel does not answer right away. His eyes remain on the bouquet, on that small glint of metal now partially revealed, and the silence stretches just long enough to say everything he is not saying. Emily feels it settle deep within her, that final shift from doubt into knowing, not loud, not dramatic, but steady, irreversible. Rex does not move. He stands as he has from the beginning, firm and unyielding, his body angled protectively, his presence no longer a disruption, but a warning made visible. A breeze moves through the vineyard, lifting the edge of Emily's veil, brushing softly against her shoulders, but the warmth of the day no longer reaches her the same way. Everything feels sharper now, clearer. Daniel exhales slowly, the sound controlled, almost rehearsed, and when he finally speaks, his voice carries a calm that feels thinner than before. "You are reading too much into this," he says, his tone even, measured, but there is a tightness beneath it that was not there earlier. It is probably something from the florist. A clip, a pin, something decorative. You are letting your past make you see things that are not there. The words are carefully chosen, gentle on the surface, but they land wrong, not because of what they say, but because of how quickly they come, how easily they try to explain away something he has not even examined. Emily's fingers tightened slightly around the bouquet again, but this time not out of uncertainty, but control. She tilts it just enough for the light to catch the object more clearly, revealing its smooth surface, its precise edges, its deliberate placement hidden beneath layers meant to distract the eye. It is not decorative. It was never meant to be seen. And Daniel knows it. She can see it in the way his jaw sets, in the way his gaze flickers again, just for a fraction of a second too long. No, Emily says quietly, her voice calm, but firm now, no tremor left in it. This was placed, hidden, and you knew exactly where it was. The crowd shifts again, the whispers no longer soft, but threaded with unease, people turning toward one another, searching for understanding in faces that mirror their own confusion. Somewhere behind her, a chair scrapes lightly against the ground, the sound abrupt in the stillness. Rex lets out another low breath, not a growl this time, but something deeper, a steady vibration of awareness, as if he is holding the moment in place, refusing to let it slip back into illusion. Daniel takes another step forward, slower now, more cautious, his movements measured as though he is recalculating something that has begun to unravel beyond his control. Emily, he says again, softer, almost pleading this time. You are standing in front of everyone. Think about what you are doing. We can talk about this after. Just come here. But the distance between them is no longer just physical. It is something wider now, something that cannot be closed with a step or softened with a tone. Emily does not move. Instead, she shifts her grip once more, and with careful precision, she pulls slightly at the ribbon, just enough for the hidden object to loosen, to slip partially free from its concealment. It falls gently against the stems, fully visible now to anyone close enough to see, small, metallic, deliberate. A murmur ripples through the front rows, sharper this time, more focused, because now there is something to look at, something real. Emily's eyes lift to meet Daniel's again, and this time, there is no search left in them, no question waiting for an answer. Only recognition. You should not have put this in my hands, she says, her voice steady, carrying farther than she expects in the quiet air. Not today. The words land between them, and for the first time, Daniel does not immediately respond. His silence is different now, not controlled, not confident, just still. And in that stillness, something breaks. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. Rex steps forward half a pace, not toward Emily, but slightly across her, reinforcing the space between her and the man she almost walked toward, his body forming a quiet barrier that does not need to be explained. Emily feels it then, not fear, not anger, but something heavier and strangely calmer. The realization that she was about to step into something she did not fully see, and that something, somehow, chose to reveal itself before it was too late. She lowers the bouquet slowly, her fingers no longer gripping it tightly, as if it has already lost its meaning, and her gaze does not leave Daniel's face. Because now, she is not looking for reassurance. She is waiting to see what truth looks like when it has nowhere left to hide. The silence does not hold forever, but when it breaks, it does not shatter. It shifts, slowly, like something giving way under pressure that has been building long before this moment, and Daniel's expression changes in a way that cannot be undone. It is subtle at first, a tightening at the corners of his eyes, a slight delay before he speaks, but it is enough for Emily to see what she needs to see. The calm he has been holding begins to thin, like a surface stretched too tightly over something deeper, something he can no longer keep hidden behind careful words and measured tone. You are making a mistake, he says quietly, but there is no warmth in it now, no softness, only a controlled edge that feels colder than anything he has said before. You are choosing a reaction over reason. Emily does not respond. She does not need to. The answer is already there, not in his words, but in everything he is not saying. Rex shifts slightly, his stance unwavering, his attention fixed, not aggressive, not threatening, but absolute, as if he has already reached a conclusion long before anyone else in this space even realized there was something to question. The guests remained still, caught between curiosity and discomfort, no longer whispering, no longer pretending this is a simple interruption, but witnessing something that has moved beyond ceremony into something far more real. A breeze passes again, lighter this time, lifting the edge of the ribbon, where the object now rests exposed, its metallic surface catching the sunlight in brief flashes, small but undeniable. Emily looks down at it once more, not searching now, but confirming, letting the image settle fully into her mind, imprinting it in a way that cannot be erased. She remembers cases where objects like this were never placed without intent, never hidden without purpose, always part of something larger than what they seemed. Her chest rises slowly as she inhales, steadying herself not against fear, but against the weight of understanding. When she lifts her gaze again, it is not uncertain. It is resolved. Then explain it, she says, her voice even, quiet but firm enough to carry through the still air. Explain why something like this would be hidden where only I would carry it. Explain why Rex recognized it before I did. The question does not come with accusation. It comes with clarity, and that makes it harder to deflect. Daniel exhales again, but this time the sound is sharper, less controlled, and for a moment, he looks away. Not far, just enough to break the line between them, just enough to reveal that something inside him is shifting under the weight of being seen. It is nothing, he replies, but the words feel smaller now, weaker, like they no longer hold the same power they did even a minute ago. You are letting that dog turn this into something it is not. Rex reacts at the word dog, not with sound, but with presence, his body straightening just enough, his head lifting slightly, his focus intensifying, as if the dismissal itself confirms what he already knows. Emily feels a quiet steadiness settle into her, a calm that comes not from comfort, but from truth aligning itself piece by piece. She takes a small step back, not away from Rex, but away from the path she was about to walk, her dress brushing softly against the ground, the sound faint but decisive. The distance between her and Daniel grows, not dramatically, but enough to mark a line that has now been drawn. Daniel notices it immediately. His posture shifts, his control tightening again, but this time it looks different, less like confidence, more like containment. Emily, he says, his voice lower now, almost urgent, do not do this here. You are overreacting. We can fix this. Just trust me. The words hang there, familiar, echoing everything she once believed, everything she once held on to, but they do not land the same way anymore. Not after what she has seen, not after what Rex has shown her. She looks at him for a long moment, not searching for the man she thought he was, but seeing the one standing in front of her now, and in that quiet space, she realizes something that settles deeper than any fear could. Trust is not something you demand in a moment like this. It is something that either exists or it does not. Rex steps forward again, just slightly, aligning himself with her movement, his presence no longer just protective, but resolute, as if he understands that the choice has already been made, even if the words have not been spoken yet. Emily lowers the bouquet completely now, her fingers loosening around it until it rests lightly in her hand, no longer something she clings to, but something she is ready to let go of. And as she stands there, between what was and what is now revealed, she realizes that this moment was never about a ceremony. It was about a truth that refused to stay hidden, and a dog who refused to let her walk past it. The line has already been drawn, even if no one has said it out loud yet, and everyone can feel it, stretching invisible but unbreakable between Emily and Daniel, between what was promised and what is now being revealed piece by piece under the open sky. The sun still shines, the breeze still moves through the vineyard, but the warmth of the day has shifted into something sharper, something that carries truth instead of comfort. Emily stands still for a long moment, her hand relaxed at her side, the bouquet no longer held with meaning but with distance, as if it belongs to a version of herself that existed only minutes ago. Rex remains beside her, close but not touching, his presence steady, his attention unwavering, not looking at the crowd, not reacting to the tension around them, but fixed entirely on Daniel, as if everything else has already fallen away. Daniel's posture changes again, Small adjustments that reveal more than any words he has spoken, his shoulders tightening, his jaw setting just a fraction too hard, his calm no longer natural but constructed, held together by effort rather than ease. "Emily," he says, quieter now, but more direct, his voice carrying a weight that was not there before. "You are letting this get out of control. You are letting a situation become something it does not need to be." The words are chosen carefully, but they do not land as reassurance. They land as pressure. Emily hears it clearly now, the shift in tone, the attempt to guide, to redirect, to regain control of a moment that no longer belongs to him. She lifts her eyes slowly, meeting his gaze without hesitation, without searching for the man she once trusted, because that search is over. "No," she says, her voice calm, even, but stronger now, anchored in something deeper than emotion. "This is exactly what it needs to be." The statement is not loud, but it carries, cutting through the silence that surrounds them, and for the first time, Daniel does not immediately respond. Instead, his eyes move again, quick, instinctive, toward the object in her hand, then back to her face, and in that movement, something final is confirmed. He knows. Rex shifts his weight slightly, his stance aligning even more with Emily's position, as if he understands that this is no longer about warning, but about standing ground. A faint sound rises from his chest again, low and steady, not threatening, but absolute, a quiet declaration that the space he occupies will not be crossed without consequence. The guests remain frozen in place, drawn into the gravity of the moment, no longer observers of a ceremony, but witnesses to something far more real, something unfolding in real time without script or expectation. Emily takes another small step back, her movement slow but deliberate, increasing the distance between herself and Daniel, and as she does, the space between them becomes undeniable, visible not just in feet and inches, but in truth. "You asked me to trust you," she says, her voice softer now, but carrying a weight that reaches deeper than before, "and I did. I trusted you with everything, with my future, with my name, with my life." She pauses for just a second, the words settling between them, not as accusation, but as fact, and when she continues, there is no anger in her voice, only clarity. "But trust does not hide things like this. Trust does not place something in my hands without my knowledge. Trust does not hope I will never notice." Daniel exhales sharply, the sound breaking the stillness in a way that feels different from before, less controlled, more exposed, and for a moment, he looks like he might speak, like he might try to rebuild what has already begun to collapse, but the words do not come. Or if they do, they are not enough. Rex takes one step forward, slow and measured, placing himself fully between them now, his body forming a clear line that cannot be ignored, his presence no longer subtle, but undeniable, a boundary made visible. Emily watches Daniel closely, waiting, not for an explanation she already knows will not come, but for the final confirmation that what she feels is real. And in the silence that follows, she sees it, not in what he says, but in what he does not say, in the way his eyes shift, in the way his composure no longer holds, in the way the truth stands between them, unspoken but fully present. Emily lowers her gaze for a brief moment, not in defeat, but in acceptance, letting the weight of it settle fully, and when she lifts her eyes again, there is nothing left to question. Only a choice that has already been made. She turns slightly, not toward the aisle, not toward the future she had imagined, but away from it, her movement slow, steady, final. And Rex moves with her, silent and certain, as if he has been waiting for this exact step all along, not to lead her forward, but to guide her away from something she was never meant to walk into. The moment she turns, something inside the world around her seems to shift with her, not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that cannot be undone, as if the path she was meant to walk has quietly disappeared behind her, leaving only the truth ahead. The soft gravel beneath her shoes makes a faint sound as she takes her first step away. The delicate fabric of her dress trailing behind her like a memory she has already begun to release, and Rex moves with her, close, steady, his presence no longer just protective, but guiding, as if he understands that this step matters more than anything that came before. No one stops her. No one knows how. The guests remained seated, caught between disbelief and silence, watching not a wedding unfold, but something far more fragile, far more real. The officiant lowers his gaze, hands still, words forgotten. The music has stopped completely now, leaving only the sound of wind brushing through the vineyard and the quiet rhythm of footsteps moving away from what was supposed to be a beginning. Behind her, Daniel does not follow immediately. For a second, he stands there, alone beneath the arch that was meant to frame a promise, his expression unreadable from a distance, but heavy with something that no longer resembles control. Then his voice comes, sharper this time, not loud, but cutting through the stillness with an edge that was never meant to be heard. Emily, stop. The words are not a request. They are not gentle. They carry urgency now, and something beneath it that feels closer to exposure than concern. Emily slows, but she does not turn around right away. Her breath moves in and out steadily, her chest rising with a calm that feels almost unfamiliar, not because it is new, but because it has not been needed in a long time. Rex pauses with her, his body aligned with hers, his ears shifting slightly as he listens, not just to the voice behind them, but to everything in the air that has changed. You are walking away from everything. Daniel continues, his tone tightening, the space between his words growing thinner, more strained. You are letting this misunderstanding ruin something real. Emily closes her eyes for just a moment, not to escape, but to settle, to let the weight of what she has already seen anchor her in place. And when she opens them again, there is no hesitation left. Slowly, she turns. Not fully, not stepping back, but just enough to face him again, enough to see him clearly one last time. The distance between them feels wider now, not measured in steps, but in truth. No, she says quietly, her voice carrying across the open space without effort. I am walking away from something that was never real to begin with. The words land with a stillness that feels heavier than any raised voice could carry, and for a moment, Daniel says nothing. His posture shifts again, his shoulders tightening, his composure thinning further, and in that silence, the illusion that once held everything together finally gives way completely. Rex steps forward just slightly, placing himself once again between them, not out of fear, not out of reaction, but out of certainty, as if the line he holds is not just for protection, but for closure. Emily lowers her gaze briefly to the bouquet still in her hand, the small metallic object catching the light once more, and without hesitation, she releases it. The flowers fall softly to the ground, the ribbon loosening as it lands, the hidden object rolling slightly into the open, no longer concealed, no longer part of something beautiful. A quiet sound moves through the crowd, not quite a gasp, not quite a whisper, but something that carries understanding, the kind that does not need explanation. Emily looks at it for a second, not with regret, but with acceptance, and then she lifts her eyes again, not to Daniel, but forward, toward the open space beyond the ceremony, towards something unknown but honest. Rex shifts closer to her side, his body brushing lightly against her leg for the first time since he stepped into the aisle, a quiet reassurance, a grounding presence that asks for nothing but gives everything. Emily reaches down slowly, her hand finding the top of his head, her fingers resting gently against his fur, and for a brief moment, everything else fades, the crowd, the tension, the broken ceremony, leaving only the simple truth of connection, of trust that does not need to be spoken. She exhales softly, a breath that carries release, and then she turns again, this time fully, stepping away without looking back. And Rex walks with her, silent, steady, certain, leaving behind a place that was meant to hold a promise, but instead revealed something far more important before it was too late. The path beyond the ceremony is quieter than she expected, not empty, but softened, like the world itself has stepped back to give her space to breathe. And as Emily walks, the sound of the vineyard fades behind her, replaced by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant hum of open land stretching beyond what she can see. The weight she carries is different now, not the light anticipation of a future she once believed in, but something steadier, something grounded in truth, even if that truth came at a cost she did not choose. Her dress brushes against the grass as she moves, the fabric no longer pristine, no longer untouched, but real in a way it had not been before, marked by a moment that changed everything without raising its voice. Rex stays close at her side, his pace matching hers without command, without hesitation, his presence no longer an interruption, but a quiet constant that asks for nothing and expects nothing in return. He does not look back. Neither does she. Behind them, the ceremony remains suspended in its unfinished state, a place that once held expectation, now holding only silence and questions that will be answered long after they are gone. Emily slows near the edge of the vineyard where the rows of vines give way to open ground, the sunlight stretching wide across the landscape, warm and unfiltered, and she stops, not because she does not know where to go, but because she finally allows herself to feel the full weight of what has just happened. Her breath moves slowly in her chest, steady but deep, and for a moment, she closes her eyes, letting the quiet settle around her, letting the absence of noise become something she can hold on to. Rex shifts slightly beside her, his body turning just enough to face her, his amber eyes lifting, searching not for instruction, but for connection, and when she opens her eyes again, she meets his gaze fully. There is no confusion there, no question, only a calm, unwavering presence that has already carried her through something she did not even know she needed saving from. Emily lowers herself slowly, the fabric of her dress gathering around her as she kneels on the soft ground, and without hesitation, she wraps her arms around Rex, pulling him close in a quiet, steady embrace that holds more meaning than any words she could have spoken at the altar. He leans into her gently, his body warm, solid, real, his breathing slow and even against her shoulder, grounding her in a way nothing else can. For a long moment, they stay like that, unmoving, the world around them continuing without interruption, the breeze passing softly, the sunlight resting gently across them both. There is no need for explanation, no need for understanding beyond what has already been shown. Emily exhales slowly, her hand resting against the side of his neck, her fingers pressing lightly into his fur, feeling the quiet strength there, the certainty that never wavered, even when everything else did. "You knew," she whispers softly, not as a question, but as a recognition, her voice barely above the sound of the wind, and Rex does not respond with movement or sound, only with presence, the kind that has always been enough. She pulls back slightly, her hands still resting on him, and for the first time since the ceremony began, there is something different in her expression, not sorrow, not anger, but something quieter, something that resembles peace. Not the kind that comes from everything going as planned, but the kind that comes from seeing clearly, from being pulled back before stepping into something that could not have held her safely. Emily rises slowly, her movements unhurried, her posture steady, and as she looks out across the open land ahead, she does not see uncertainty. She sees space. She sees possibility that is honest, not perfect, but real. Rex steps forward beside her again, aligning himself with her direction without being asked, and together, they begin to walk, not towards something defined, but towards something true. The vineyard behind them remains, the arch, the chairs, the unfinished moment, all of it still there, but it no longer holds her. Because sometimes, the most important promises are not the ones we make in front of others, but the ones we are given quietly, without words, in the exact moment we need them most. And sometimes, the one who keeps that promise walks on four paws.